Hello, and welcome to Boomer Banter, where we have real talk about aging well. And I am your host, Wendy Green. And if you've been part of our community for a while, you know that we often talk about finding purpose and connection, especially in life's later chapters. And sometimes purpose finds you in the most unexpected ways, like a simple bike ride. Today's guest, Bill Sepe, knows that firsthand. At 73, Bill could have settled into a quieter life as a retiree and full-time caregiver for his wife. But instead, he found himself launching a nonprofit where he lives that's turning heads and turning wheels. It's called Three Wheel Therapy. And it's a volunteer-powered movement giving free three-wheel bicycle rides to people who can't ride on their own anymore. So it's for nursing home residents, kids with disabilities, and even his own wife. These rides are more than just a spin around the block. They're moments of joy, freedom, and human connection. So today, we'll talk about how caregiving, creativity, and the love of cycling sparked a movement Bill never saw coming, and why finding purpose after retirement may just start with saying yes to a crazy idea. I can't wait to hear his story and share it with you. But first, if you want to stay connected with the work we are doing on Boomer Banter, then you can go to our Facebook page, heyboomer.biz, and click on Age Well with Us. And if you want to support the work that we are doing on Boomer Banter, you can buy me a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/heyboomer0413. And for as little as $5, you can buy me a coffee. As many coffees as you want. It's not really coffee. It's just support for the work that we're doing. So anything you can do, buymeacoffee.com/heyboomer0413 is greatly appreciated. All right. That's it for the opening remarks. Let's meet Bill. Hey, Bill.
Good afternoon, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy that you were willing to join us today, or that you reached out. I think you reached out to me, right?
And I think it was through a mutual connection on LinkedIn, and I saw one of your podcasts, and it resonated with me.
Well, I'm so glad that you did, because I think this is an important story to share. But let's give some people the history of where your love for cycling came and how you were cycling as a family.
Sure. Well, it goes back to when we were kids. I mean, everything we did was on bikes. We went everywhere on our bicycles. And when we first got married, my wife actually, when she moved down to Delaware where I was living, she had a bike and I didn't. So she went out and bought me a bike.
That's sweet.
And we would go biking together. And then as children came along, we got one of those plastic seats that fastens behind, my seat. And the first boy, our son Dave, was in the first. He got the first ride.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the second one, Brian, came along, we gave Brian to Betty, and he was riding in the seat behind her. And then when our third son, Christopher, came along, well, David was old enough to ride a bike on his own, and we would leave from our house and ride down, the little town we lived in. We would ride along the sidewalks downtown, and maybe stop and get something, an ice cream or something, and come back.
Fun. Yeah.
So it was fun. And then that was really how it got started, and we loved doing bike riding together.
Yeah, and then you went on to become like a long distance cyclist.
Yeah, so after the boys had grown up, had gone through college, I had started getting into my first long distance cycling opportunity was with the MS 150 ride here in Ohio. The Multiple Sclerosis Society, I think one of their major fundraisers, they promote these MS 150 rides all around the country. They have different names, and we decided that I was going to try to do this, and I did very little training. And I realized after doing 150 miles in 2 days that the plan was really not that good, and that I needed to really work on my training.
Ooh, I bet.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing that I learned was my good friend Ron Brubaker. Um, he said, you really ought to try a road bike, because I was using a hybrid, which is not really the best bike for a long distance. And he let me try out one of his road bikes for a week, and I was sold. And I really, I think in 2009 was when I really started. I joined a bike club, and I started doing these really long regular rides, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles, on the weekends. And of course, my wife was not interested in doing long distance rides. She loves leisurely rides. And I was just pushing myself for endurance and to see just how far I could ride a bike.
Yeah. So are you and your wife still riding?
Well, that's an interesting journey and how we got to where we are today. In 2007, my wife had to have bilateral knee replacement surgery.
Ooh.
And so, and so after she recovered from that, and she'd had a very nice recovery and was pain-free. That was the big thing. She was in so much pain that I said to her, all right, we got to get you back on the bike. And so the first thing we did was we got her bike out of the garage, and we were in the driveway, and she just freaked out because one of her knees just couldn't do that 360 crank. And she just was worried about falling.
Yeah.
So we tried several things. The first thing we tried was a recumbent tricycle. And she really liked that because she didn't have to worry about falling off a trike. And then, she didn't, have the pressure of having to do the full 360 from that height. But she couldn't keep up with me on the bike trail with the recumbent.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, what about a tandem? So let's try a tandem.
That's a good idea.
And so we looked at, we went and looked at a couple of used tandems that were for sale off the internet, and we didn't see anything that we liked. But we ended up, when we were on vacation down in Hilton Head, South Carolina, one spring, we went to a bike shop, and they had a tandem that she felt more comfortable on. So we rented that for the week, and she says, I like this bike. I don't feel unsteady on it, and I feel like I can ride with you. So when we came back to Ohio, we went to our local bike shop, and we said, can we get one of these Trek tandems? And we bought one. And we even bought a very expensive rack that we could put on the roof of our SUV. And we could haul that bike wherever we wanted to. So we took it everywhere.
Oh, great.
And we thought, hey, things were going great. And this was in the summer of 2013. And we thought, hey, we're on our way now. And she had retired. I was still working. My plans were to stay working until 2016.
Okay.
And in September of 2013, our world really got turned upside down. We were in bed for the night, and she couldn't get comfortable. And I kept asking her, what's wrong? Why are you so restless? And she couldn't really tell me what was going on. She goes, there's something wrong with my leg. And I really didn't know what was going on. All I knew was I wanted to get to sleep because I was commuting to work on my bicycle, and I normally got up at 4:15 in the morning to meet my buddies at 5:30 to bike 18 miles to downtown Cleveland. I just wanted to go to sleep.
Right.
Finally, when I realized something was really, really wrong, and I suspected it was a stroke, 911 was called, and they came and they said, you're a very sick lady. We need to get you to the hospital. So the next day, when the neurologist came in to meet with us, she literally was paralyzed on the left side. She couldn't move her left leg. She couldn't move her left leg or left arm. And so that kind of took us to, someplace we just were not expecting.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, gosh. And so did you then have to retire, Bill, in 2014 ahead of time?
So I stayed working. We were very fortunate that my wife had a number of friends that said, hey, we'll come and we'll help Betty in the morning and in the afternoon while you can go to work. I did a lot of traveling for my job, and so that kind of came to a stop. But I was very fortunate to have a team of very experienced engineers that worked, in our department that carried the load, and I really didn't have to supervise them. They knew what their job was. They went out and they got it done. And it was the realization at the end of the year during Christmas break that I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to retire. I'm going to announce my retirement effective the end of April of 2014. And that's what I did.
Okay. So a couple of years early. So that had to totally refocus your idea of what retirement was going to be like. What were your thoughts at that point?
So our plan for retirement was, we had, I talked to you about how we vacationed in Hilton Head, South Carolina. We had actually bought a villa that we would vacation down, and we were using the villa as an opportunity to go down and really explore the island, make friends, and get to the point where when we were ready to retire, to sell here in Ohio and move there full time and pick up our lives there. That really changed. That went out the window. Yeah. I had to learn a lot about caregiving. I had to learn a lot about what her limitations were. It also required us to take a look at where we were living. We had a center hall colonial with bathroom on the second floor. Our bedroom was on the second floor, and going up and down a huge flight of stairs was very, very difficult. So we made the decision in 2016 to move to a single floor living in a nearby community from where we had been for almost 30 years. And that shook a lot of our friends, especially our close friends that lived on our street, that hated to see us go, but it was something we had to do.
Yeah.
And so the other thing too was, my two passions as far as recreation were concerned was golfing and riding my bike. And Hilton Head Island is just a perfect place for both passions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My wife loves the beach. She calls herself the beach girl.
Okay.
And so we said, hey, this is what our retirement's going to look like. I'm going to go to the beach, get some sun. You go play around a golf, and then you can come join me on the beach in the afternoon, or you can go ride your bike, and then, you can join me on the beach or whatever. Or we'll do bike rides together.
Sure.
Because there's bike paths all the way around Hilton Head Island.
Yeah.
And you go the kind of speed that she was used to doing. So that was out the window. So many people told me, you can't just do this 24/7. You need to recreate. The caregiver needs to take care of themselves. So I was fortunate enough to be able to find a caregiver that I could pay for to come in every Monday so I could go play golf with all of my buddies. And on Tuesday mornings, I started a bike riding group for, we want to do like a 2-hour short bike ride. It's not a long ride at all, 20 miles maybe. But she's self-sufficient enough that she could take care of herself in those 2 hours that I was gone, and just, sit there and read. She's an avid reader. She blows through 50 to 60 books a year. I don't know how she does it.
Oh gosh. That's fantastic.
And so, but I always felt bad whenever I would walk out the door because I was leaving her by herself.
Yeah. So tell me then how you came across three-wheel therapy and tell me what it is too.
Well, okay. So let's start with my search to find a bicycle that she could go on a ride with me. And these all started popping up on the internet. I started finding them. The first one I found was a group called Cycling Without Age.
So was this something she wanted to do? I mean, she had been a little nervous about riding when her knee was bad. Did she want to ride with you?
Well, the first time I saw the Cycling Without Age videos, I showed it to her and I said, what do you think about this? And she goes, oh, that would be fine. And the Cycling Without Age model is, there are two people sitting in the front. So it's a little bit wider, a little bit more cumbersome, but there's room for two people, and the pedaler is behind. I actually investigated and talked to people over in Europe about starting a chapter here. And in fact, there was a chapter started by the local metro parks here in our area, but they do very, very limited rides at one specific metro park, which I felt was an underutilization of their assets. So I kept looking. And then I saw a video online from a couple in Australia. Similar situation. The husband was taking care of his wife. She had dementia. They had been riding from the time they were dating, way back when they were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And he built this custom bike called the bike chair.
Okay.
And everybody was raving about this thing. And I'm like, I'm wondering if anybody's going to make this thing. And well, eventually, a few years back, some family members of his, I think he's since passed away, decided they were going to try to start a business in Australia to build the bike chair. And they kept coming back every 4 or 5 months with a video or an email update saying, that they were working, they were here. They had a timeline, but they weren't seem to be making progress. But they said that the price tag was about $4,000 for one of these, whereas the cycling without age was like $11,000-$12,000. And those are electric bikes. And I said, well, certainly for $4,000, this can't be an e-bike. It's got to be a only leg powered only. But I didn't have a lot of details, so we kept pushing on, looking for the right vehicle. Now, I told you about my Tuesday morning bike ride group.
Right.
So every Tuesday, I'm a leader of a group called the Groovers, which stands for Grown Up Bicycle Riders.
Cute. Okay.
And it's sort of an organic group that's we've added people over the years. My best friend, Ron, rides with us most of the time. We've met some really interesting people, picked up people that I knew from the Sherwin-Williams cycling team that I was part of. And a couple of years ago, we did a bike ride up the bike trail to downtown Cleveland, kind of reminiscing of our commuting to work rides. And one of the gals that was with us, I said, the company's building a new headquarters downtown Cleveland. Let's take a ride by there and we'll take some pictures. So we did a selfie in front of the new building and we posted it on the retirees page. And I made a comment. Is anybody interested in joining us? We do a ride every Tuesday morning. So a gentleman by the name of Craig Douglas reached out to me and said, my wife and I ride bikes and we'd love to join your group. So I said, sure. So got their email address and added them to the list. And Craig and Kathy started riding with us. And that was 2023. Well, then fast forward to 2024. Obviously, nobody rides around here in the wintertime unless they're crazy or they have those fat tire bikes. The Douglases, unbeknownst to us, winter in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. And so we came back from South Carolina and I sent out my email for the first ride of 2024. And so we're going down the trail and Craig is talking to Ron and he's telling him about this, bike that they encountered because Kathy's mom, Diane, needs a wheelchair for going long distances. And they were on the beach when this guy came up behind her and said, we have a bike for her.
Oh, we have a bike for her?
We have a bike that she can ride. So they followed this gentleman who happened to be Ken Kohler. And they were so impressed and then found out that because they were there for the rest of the winter, they said, hey, if you need some help volunteering, we'd love to, help you out. So Craig's, telling Ron, and Ron says, you got to show Bill this video. So he shows me the video and I'm like, I'm just blown away.
Yeah.
I said, this is it. I want one of those bikes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I asked him about, how I could get in touch with this 3-wheel therapy. And we were not friends on Facebook, believe it or not, at the time. So he sent me a friend request. And then I reached out to Nicole Kohler, who is the executive director of 3-wheel therapy in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. So we exchanged a couple of emails and she was telling me all these stories about how they got started, how her and Ken had moved to Carolina from Chicago, got out of the cold of Chicago and moved to Carolina Beach. And the genesis of 3-wheel therapy came from an organization called Healing Rides. And then she also reached out to a group in Maine, in Portland, Maine, called the Portland Wheelers.
Okay.
Who ride the same type of trike that we're using at 3-wheel therapy. And Now, Nicole is a licensed recreational therapist, and she had worked with a lot of parks and recreations people. And this was her idea, that she's the one that developed this model for three-wheel therapy.
Okay.
We got it started in 2022, and they did fundraising for their first trike. The first year that they were in business, 2023, they only had one trike.
Oh.
And then through a generous grant from the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, bought a second trike in 2024. So they're able to more than double the number of rides they were giving to people. And so my initial thrust was just, I wanted to buy one of those trikes from the bike shop that they were getting their trikes from. But I'm going to stop here because there's all of these things I think are directed by God. I said, well, where's this bike shop at? And she says, it's in Warwick, Rhode Island. Well, lo and behold, we're from Rhode Island. That's where
you and Betty are?
Betty and I are from Rhode Island.
Uh-huh.
We actually met while at the University of Rhode Island. We graduated in 1974.
Okay.
And Betty lived a good part of her life in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm like, this is weird. This is really strange.
So
what's the coincidence that, this bike company called Bike On only sells bikes for people with disabilities and handicaps.
Wow.
That's their specialty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not going to go into a traditional bike shop that sells, the traditional bikes that everybody rides and find these bikes. They're hard to find.
Yeah. So let's get to where you got your bike and you took Betty on her first ride. What was that like?
Well, so that was in August of 2024. My best friend from high school was in a battle with cancer. And I said, we need to go back and see Rick. And so we made arrangements to go to Bike On that weekend. We drove out to Rhode Island, and he met us there at the bike shop, the salesman, and we did the bike ride in the parking lot. That's all we did. We just did the bike ride in the parking lot. And I said, well, what did you think? And she's like, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up.
She loved it.
She goes, this is good. She goes, this would work. She says, I was a little bit afraid at first because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel in it, but she said it was good. And the young man that met us there, Kyle, he took a picture of us. He took a video of us, and the one picture we have of her in the front seat of the bike sort of became the poster for a local article that appeared in one of the local newspapers here in town. And so
you said, well, this works for you and Betty, but you wanted to do more than that. I mean, you could have just done for the two of you, Bill.
Right. Well, but that's exactly right. It was like, initially my initial thrust was I want to buy one of these for myself, but then I stopped and said, knowing, because she had spent some time in an assisted living facility after I was recovering from bilateral hernia surgery in 2024. And I would have to go to visit her at the nursing home every day at the assisted living. And I got to talk with some of the residents there and just observe residents and how lonely they seem to be. Mm-hmm. So I said, I asked Craig, I said, do you think that Ken and Nicole are interested in starting another chapter of this, kind of like a franchise? I don't know what, have they given any thoughts? And Craig thought that they did. Mm-hmm. And so we did a Zoom call with them, and they were absolutely 100% behind doing it. And they decided and agreed that Ohio would be their first expansion of three-wheel therapy. And they helped us with the paperwork to get registered in the state of Ohio as a nonprofit under their flagship.
Wow, that's great. So how many bikes do you have now?
So that was the next step. Was like, okay, we get a fundraise. These bikes are $13,000 a piece, and that includes the freight because they are sourced out of the Netherlands. They come from the Netherlands.
Really? Wow.
And then they're shipped by boat to Rhode Island, and then the nice thing is that Bike On Kyle, he loads those trikes into a trailer and he hauls them. He hauled them here for us. We raised money. We went through a number of small donations and family foundation donations. Were able to purchase 2 trikes, and they were delivered in April of this year.
Wow. So tell me about some of the rides that you do with people other than Betty, and what kinds of reactions you get.
Well, let's stop and we'll do one step real quick.
Okay.
Then beyond just me, Craig, and Kathy, because we weren't going to shoulder all of this, we knew that Three Wheel Therapy in North Carolina had an army of about 25 or so volunteers that Ken and Nicole had recruited. We needed to start recruiting volunteers, and that's what we did. And I have to say, we have a group of just absolutely fantastic, loving, caring people on our team in Ohio.
I can see that this moves you a lot because of who you are too, and the impact. So how did you, let me help you. How did you find these wonderful people?
The publication in the newspaper helped. The articles in the newspaper helped. People saw that. They knew our website. They Facebook. I was on Facebook until February 22nd when I got booted off, but that's a story for another day. I haven't gone back. And people just saw posts, and they just different outlets, different media outlets that we advertised what we were trying to do. And we had some people that, we said we weren't looking for Bill Sepe's. We weren't looking for people that, were crazy cyclists that want to do 30, 40, 50, 100-mile bike rides. We wanted people that were compassionate and cared.
Yeah. Did you find most of your volunteers were also somehow associated with somebody with a disability?
In some cases, yes. But we also have recruited some people that were therapists, people that had either worked in occupational therapy or physical therapy, had worked in facilities, had done some sort of caring for someone, and said, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it is an emotional experience for both the cyclist and the rider.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, share some of that.
So we have, and one of the things that sort of surprised me is I always thought that this would be a slam dunk, that I could walk into a nursing home or a senior living facility and say to the activities coordinator, hey, this is what we do. I'm showing them some pictures, show them a video, and they say, sign me up. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes not that easy, because some of them are under the auspices of a corporate office. A lot of corporations have bought some of these senior living facilities.
For sure. Yeah.
But we have gently nudged, and we've now added several senior living facilities, and we have 2 organizations that work with developmentally disabled youth and adults. And everybody loves the ride. I mean, we get comments from especially the seniors. Oh, the sun feels good on my face. The wind blowing through my hair. Oh, this trail is beautiful. I didn't know this. I mean, the first place we went to, the bike trail passes right behind the facility. They didn't even know that bike trail existed.
Wow.
And said, oh, this is beautiful. Did you see that deer just jump out?
They would see that.
We'd see deer, and we'd point out different things. We'd go by a lake and point out the Canada geese out on the lake. The funny story, this is great. I always bring Betty with me when we go to these facilities, and she sits there, and Nicole basically has given her the title, you are our rider advocate. So she'll chit chat with the fit folks who are waiting for a ride, because we can only give 2 rides at a time, and we can give 6 to 8 rides in a 2-hour period. So she might chit chat with under the canopy, or she might just chit chat with our site coordinator. We always have a site coordinator. So few weeks ago, what I always do is I wait for our volunteers to harness the people in and buckle the seatbelts. And then I come off the bike and I get in front of them and I introduce myself. And this one lady, I can't remember her name now, she said, "Oh, you're a handsome one." And I turned to my wife and I said, "Betty, you've got competition." I said, "That's my wife over there." And she goes, "Oh," she says, "You're still handsome."
And Betty says, "I know he is."
Yes.
That's cute. Now, when you're riding, can you talk to the person in the front? Can they hear you back and forth?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such an important part of the experience. We generate conversation with our riders. Sometimes they don't have a lot to say, and that's just kind of the stage of life that they're in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not hearing us and what we have to say and what we're telling them as we go down.
Yeah.
I like to ask them about their life story. I like to ask them, where in the area they grew up, whether they are from Ohio. In one case, I had a lady who grew up in Michigan, and then her and her husband moved down here. I was very moved by one widow who told me that her husband received the Purple Heart for his service as a Marine at Iwo Jima.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So certainly this has given you a sense of purpose. Can you reflect on how this might have changed you personally, this whole experience of building this nonprofit and getting the volunteers and sharing this experience with so many different people?
Yes, because I will tell you that there was a point in time, and it was probably right around COVID when, I think we all were, when we were in lockdown and we didn't have interaction with other human beings in a live setting. And human beings need that. We need that interaction. And my wife needed that more than anybody else. She needed that. And she sort of shut down during COVID. She was not really a talkative person to begin with. I tend to be the more outspoken one of us. And it just drove me crazy that we weren't having the kind of conversations we used to have. And I literally had to go to counseling for it and try to work through the issues we were having. And I remember my counselor telling me that somewhere along the line, I needed to find redemption. I've written that word down in my notebook about, redemption. I asked her about redemption, and she said, "I see nothing redemption, no redeeming qualities in this journey that we're on." I think three-wheel therapy is the redemption.
Wow.
I think it gives me the reason to get up and go to set up. I mean, we're getting ready to set up with a new facility this coming Wednesday. Every time we send out the invite, our volunteers just flock to it. It's like sometimes I think we have more people than we need because we do have these co-pilots that ride their own bikes to get in front of and behind the trikes for safety purposes. And they chit chat with our riders too. And they just do a fantastic job. They come, they know what they have to do. We obviously have trained them very well. They know how to get these folks fastened into the front of the trike. They know how to, fit their helmets on them and they talk to them and engage them. And that's so important for these people. Well, like I said, may not have family members to come to visit them on a regular basis.
That's right.
Very, very lonely life.
Very lonely life. And what a gift you're giving them. It's a beautiful thing. What would you say to people that might, entertain an idea like this and then go, "No, I'm too old. I'm too old to do this"? What would you say to them?
I never thought about, a couple of times I thought about, what am I doing? When I was, I started this, at age 72, and I was thinking, what am I thinking? Why am I doing this? For what reason? And am I really built at this age to want to do this? And I've always, because of my bike riding and being an active senior, kept myself in good enough shape that I had to keep telling myself, no, you can do this. You can do this. And beyond that, it's what are you giving back to people? Because my belief, and I think we had this discussion, the happiest times I've ever been myself personally is when I'm doing for other people, and not necessarily thinking of self-gratification myself. And that comes from a book that I read by an author that I really love called Matthew Kelly. He wrote a book called Holy Moments.
Okay.
And the concept of holy moments is taking that time to reflect to God and say, I want to put my self-interest aside. What do you want me to do for someone else today?
Which is so important, Bill, because I talk to so many different people about what to do in retirement, right? And some people, they gave up things when they were kids, right? Like they wanted to be a musician, or they wanted to be an artist, or they wanted to be whatever, a cook. And so now they're doing it. And some people are saying, well, but just volunteer, just to help. That's not tangible. That's not something I can do. But it's one of the most important things, in my opinion, that you can do, because giving for others is also so helpful for yourself too.
Yeah. And, I think I may have mentioned this to you, I think, when we first spoke. My friend Donna Kastner from Age Well Dayton, she does a podcast down there, and she had a guest on her show last year. And he said something that struck me very well. 3 stages of life that we go through: we learn, we earn, and we give back.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple, but I believe in it.
I believe in it too. So what do you want people to take away from your story, Bill?
Well, I think that what I want them to take away from it, a couple of things. Number one, that if something that's out there, a volunteer opportunity, is you're looking for something to do in retirement, if it's speaking to your heart, consider that a sign. Maybe it's from God. I don't know. I mean, some people are spiritual in that way, and some others are not. But I consider it a sign that I believe God is leading you in that direction. And I know when I look back at this path, this journey that I'm on, I can see God's hand in everything.
Well, all the serendipitous moments that you met the right people at the right time from the right places, and Rhode Island played into. It all seemed to fall into place.
It all, and when you're going to do a volunteer, it's always good to get along with the people that you're volunteering with. I cannot speak highly enough about the Kohlers, Ken and Nicole, and our partners here in Ohio, Craig and Kathy. 4 of the most giving, loving people you'd ever want to get into business with. And this is not a business. We're not here to make money. It's a nonprofit. We give these rides for free. And the other thing, the message I would like to give the audience is that, support, if you feel that you can't volunteer, but if you see an organization that's a nonprofit that, is tugging at your heartstrings, donate money to them, because we don't exist without our volunteers and without generous donors who give their money away to support what we're doing. And it's a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So if you want to learn more about 3-Wheel Therapy, they have a website, 3wheeltherapy.org, and you can see videos, and you can see pictures of the rides and learn more about Nicole and Ken. Right. And if you would like to speak directly to Bill, he has offered to share his email address with you, and that's Akron OH at 3wheeltherapy.org. So even just reach out and let him know how much you loved this podcast. That would be amazing. Before I let you go, and we thank Bill again, I just want to take a moment to remind you that you can connect with us at heyboomer.biz and click on Age Well with Us. You'll get a weekly newsletter, hopefully very inspiring articles, and what's coming up as far as the next show. And if you want to support the work we're doing, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/heyboomer0413. I always appreciate any support that you want to share. Let's see. Coming up. Oh, one more thing. We like to share about fellow podcasters who are also talking to people in this demographic. And so Fading Memories is a podcast that offers valuable insights for aging well and supporting your aging loved ones. My friend Jennifer Fink is the host, and she discusses brain health recommendations, effective caregiving techniques, and self-care strategies. Jennifer's mom had dementia for many, many years, and so Jennifer does so much work with Alzheimer's and dementia, and her podcast shares so many wonderful tips. So check out fadingmemoriespodcast.com. And next week is August. Can you believe it? And our theme for that month is health, mental, physical, and emotional health. And so speaking of dementia, on Monday, August 4th, our guest is Nicole Smith, who wrote a book called Diagnosis Dementia, Your Guide to Elder Care Planning and Crisis Management. Her journey was fraught with challenges exacerbated by distance, confusion, and her mother's anger as she was getting more and more ill with the dementia. So Nicole wrote the book she wished had been there for her when she started on this journey. Bill, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for reminding us that purpose doesn't have a finish line, but finding ways to give back, stay connected, and keep moving, literally and figuratively, no matter what stage of life we're in, can bring a sense of purpose and fulfillment. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's been wonderful. I hope to see you all back next Monday.